location of the emergency?
My daughter is missing. She's gone. We can't find her anywhere. I've called all her friends.
How old is she?
11.
Okay, what's her name, ma'am?
Carlie, Carlie.
And last name?
Brucia, Brucia.
The footage you just watched shows the last known moments of 11-year-old Carlie Brucia as she was abducted in broad daylight by a violent predator. The case of 11-year-old Carlie Brucia is one of the most disturbing crimes in American history, beginning with a mother's shaking voice on a 911 call and ending with a community stunned by the depth of human cruelty. On Super Bowl Sunday 2004, Carlie left a friend's house believing she was making a simple walk home, but what should have been a harmless, mile-long route turned into a nightmare the moment her stepfather failed to find her anywhere along the familiar streets, and her mother, Susan, immediately felt something was horribly wrong, an instinct that would prove devastatingly accurate. By the next morning, investigators followed tracking dogs to Evie's car wash, where the manager replayed surveillance footage and uncovered a scene so cold it stunned seasoned detectives. Carlie, walking alone, unaware of the danger behind her, and a man, casual, relaxed, hands in his pockets, closing in on her like a predator studying prey. In a matter of seconds, he stepped directly into her path, spoke low enough to unsettle her, and locked his grip around her arm with a confidence that made it clear this was not his first act of violence. When her parents viewed the footage, their faces collapsed in horror. The girl in the tape was undeniably Carlie, and the man leading her away was a complete stranger with a chilling calmness in his movements. As the video broadcast across the country, tips poured in, and several people independently identified the abductor as 37-year-old Joseph Smith, a troubled auto mechanic and chronic offender whose past was packed with violence, drugs, restraining orders, and accusations that had somehow never kept him off the streets. Detectives confronted him at the house where he rented a room, and though he claimed he had been asleep, the story immediately stank of lies. He had scratches on his hands, tattoos matching the man in the video, and he admitted to borrowing his friend's yellow station wagon, the same type of car seen circling the car wash before the abduction. His friend later confessed he had reset the odometer before Joseph took the car, and by the time Joseph returned it the next morning, more than 300 miles had been added, and the interior was messed up, with the back seat left down in a way that sent dread through investigators. When Joseph was arrested for probation violations, he acted more like a man inconvenienced than a man under suspicion for kidnapping a child. During interrogation, he crossed his arms, shrugged, avoided questions, and even asked the detective for a cigarette, as if the life of an 11-year-old girl meant nothing, as if the world owed him comfort even while time was running out for Carlie. But the truth cracked open when Joseph called his brother from jail, and his brother, shaking with shock, contacted police. He knew where Carlie was because Joseph had confessed, describing actions so depraved that his brother could barely repeat them, admitting he had taken the girl, overpowered her, and choked her until she stopped moving. Guided by Joseph's confession, officers marched through a wooded patch behind a church and found Carlie's small body partially concealed, her final resting place chosen by a man who saw her as disposable, a fantasy to feed his darkness. Forensic analysis revealed the brutality she suffered, along with Joseph's DNA, hairs, and fibers from his clothing, proving he was not just the man in the surveillance footage. He was the last person she ever saw alive. The outrage from the public was volcanic. Joseph had been arrested over a dozen times in the decade before Carlie's abduction, had violated parole repeatedly, had multiple violent offenses involving women, and yet he remained free because of bureaucratic failures that allowed a predator to keep slipping through cracks wide enough to swallow a child. In court, Joseph showed no remorse, and the details prosecutors revealed painted him not as a man who snapped in a moment of weakness, but as someone who had fantasized about harming young girls, someone who had waited for an opportunity like Carlie, someone who hunted. In 2005, he was convicted of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and battery on a child under 12, and the jury voted 10-2 to execute him, sending him to death row. But years later, Florida law changed and required unanimous death penalty decisions vacating his sentence. Joseph never made it back to court for resentencing. In 2021, he died in prison, leaving behind a trail of devastation, unanswered questions, and a family forever haunted by the what-ifs of a system that failed to contain him. Today, Carlie's case is remembered not only for its brutality, but for the chilling reality it exposes. A child walking home on a quiet Sunday evening crossed paths with a monster hiding in plain sight, and in just 7 seconds, the length of her abduction captured on video, an entire world was destroyed by the kind of evil most people can't imagine exists.